Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow. Welcome to Paranormal Yacker. My guest today is UFO investigator, researcher, author, and Colorado MUFON State Director, Katie Griboski. We'll be yakking about many topics, including her book about the complex world of UFO contact experiences. Katie Griboski, welcome to Paranormal Yacker.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me on, Stan.
Skinwalker Ranch in Utah is known for its paranormal activity. However, a Colorado ranch known as Clearview, which you have a family connection to and predates the Skinwalker Ranch by over a decade and a half, has also experienced paranormal activity. Could you share some of your paranormal experiences there?
Absolutely. That's what got me started really in this whole field. This happened over 4 decades ago. So some people will ask me, why are you still trying to research this after all that time? And the answer actually is twofold. I mean, number one, and most importantly, I have had personal experiences there, as well as my older sister did as well. Those experiences just kind of always sat back in my mind, and I never had answers to those. Number two, just like with Roswell and so many other UFO paranormal events from decades past, we still don't have all the answers to this. It's been just a Pandora's box. And once you jump down that rabbit hole, you start actually having more questions to the phenomenon than you do answers. And I think a lot of researchers and experiencers know that firsthand. Back in 2012, I kind of started to revisit and re-question some of those things that happened to me as a young girl out on this Colorado ranch. It's important for the listeners to understand that in my mind, I thought the activity was isolated to just the ranch property, and I never even knew it was ever reported to anybody. I didn't know it was investigated or reported. In 2014, I bought a book called Hunt for the Skinwalker by George Knapp and Colm Kelleher, PhD, having no idea about the adventure that book was about to take me on, because in that book is a chapter called Other Hotspots, and they go in great length about the Clearview Ranch in Colorado. And when I read that, even though they used a pseudonym for the place of the ranch, the Rocky Mountain Ranch or the Clearview Ranch, I knew its true location, which is in Elbert County, Colorado. And they also used pseudonyms for the names of the people on the ranch, which really, it was kind of funny because they didn't change them all that much. They were very close to the actual names, but just the weird dichotomy of the family made me realize this has to be the ranch. And in that book, they tell me that the investigators were Dr. Leo Sprinkle, PhD, John Durr, PhD, and Peter Van Arsdale, PhD. So I immediately got Dr. Leo Sprinkle's contact information and wrote him a letter. He's kind of old school. He doesn't do computers and internet and all that. And he promptly wrote me back clarifying or telling me that this was indeed the ranch of my childhood. That's how it kind of all started. And from there, it's just been a rabbit hole ever since.
Do you have any theory, Katie, as to why certain areas such as the Skinwalker Ranch and the Clearview Ranch have become major hotspots of paranormal activity?
Well, I have some hypotheses. I mean, in preparing for my presentation in Laughlin, Nevada, just here recently, I started investigating the Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. There was a ranch I learned about through the Mars program, which is basically the Mars program is where I had a team of redactors, and we went into all the old pre-case management internet cases for MUFON that were all on paper, and we went and redacted personal private information. So I was able to read a lot of these old cases that were old school paper. And there was a case out of Pennsylvania, Ohiopyle, Pennsylvania, that is very similar to the activities we experienced in Elbert County. So I looked at that as well as the Bradshaw Ranch and other hotspots of these high strangeness ranches. And what I found is all these locations, without exception, they ping the charts in highly magnetic areas. When you go to the US geological map, and you can for the whole world, and you could see how high the magnetism is in certain areas. The highest level is the lightest shade of pink, and the lowest is like a dark blue, I believe. All these are in the lightest shade of pink area. So to me, there has to be something to that high magnetism. I don't know if it's opening doorways or portals, or is allowing our human brain to experience these things more easily. I'm not sure what that means. And I know this isn't like explosive new information. There's been other researchers that have been talking about this for a long time.
In addition to your involvement with MUFON and the various projects, you also conduct your own independent investigations and research. Do you recall what originally sparked your interest in wanting to explore and investigate UFOs, alien beings, and experiencers?
Absolutely. I mean, it stems back from the ranch, but even predating the ranch, I was born in the state of Illinois, and my grandparents had a home in Wisconsin. And my grandfather, George, had a sighting of an oblong shaped craft that was investigated by J. Allen Hynek in the early 60s. This was over Lake Como. And then my family and I had two close encounters of the same oblong shaped craft going over into Illinois. We would drive back and forth from Wisconsin to Illinois, and we saw the same oblong shaped craft in Richmond, Illinois. So I had heard the stories about that, and in the old story my mom used to tell, she's like, Katie, we were in the old, the old Buick, the 66 Buick, and she's like, I think that's when you were zapped, because after that close encounter sighting, I was like catatonic, and she kind of had to shake me to come to again. I don't know what happened there. That's sort of in the family history. And then you fast forward to 1975 to 1978, during all those high strangeness activities. That was the time I learned later, after I got all the reports. I went to Laramie and got all the original reports from the ranch. And then John Schuessler actually bestowed upon me the briefing document here, the original report from back during that time. So I've learned a lot from there, as well as conducting other interviews. And I've never reported this ranch phenomenon to MUFON or anything. So that's why when I say I conduct my own independent research, it's sort of my personal mission, would you could say, of trying to find out what was going on there at the time. Because Linda Moulton Howe and Christopher O'Brien and Chuck Zukowski, they've done a lot of research on the cattle mutilations that were going on. There were hundreds, they were occurring almost daily out there in Elbert County. So that is a phenomenon all in itself. So it was a process of, okay, you have cattle mutilations, you have strange craft sightings, you have these strange menacing helicopters that were definitely seen, photographed, and were even menacing people. You have these mysterious boxes, you have Sasquatch beings and crypto creatures sighted on the property. You have harassment of the people on the ranch, banging on the doors, these strange underground humming sounds, circles that nothing grew on the ground, which I witnessed, paranormal activity, basically a whole host of activity. And the big question to me was, and still kind of is, are they all connected, and how are they connected?
As part of your independent research and investigations, Katie, you frequently visit archives with UFO reports and travel to different regions to conduct face-to-face interviews with experiencers and eyewitnesses. In your face-to-face interviews with experiencers, did you find any common denominators?
For all those investigators and researchers out there, I know it's been a rough time with COVID, and it's kind of put a halt to, even for me, I haven't been able to visit archives like I would like to, or in some instances do these face-to-face interviews. And even Zoom, even though Zoom is nice, it doesn't come close to what you learn in a face-to-face interview. I mean, just sitting down with somebody for hours and really getting to know them and see the body language and everything else is invaluable for an investigator and a researcher. I learned so many commonalities. It's mind-blowing. And it depends on when you talk about the Elbert County Ranch. So I flew to Florida, interviewed the widow of the undersheriff at the time, was Bill Waugh. Bill Waugh has passed away, and his widow Jean, and I interviewed his son Keith, and they're out in Florida. And that we spent hours together, recorded. And the best part about that, here's another bonus, is she pulls out a big binder full of newspaper articles that she had saved from the 70s. And she let me take that home and copy them. And they've been invaluable for my research, because you could pull names and locations from all those articles. And now I have a list of over 200 people that either had cattle mutilations, or that's the other thing. So a lot of those articles focused on the mutilations. It's really, even though all this time has passed, it's a matter of picking up the phone, calling these folks and saying, hey, I know you encountered a mutilation, but I have other questions. Did you have paranormal activity? Did you see lights in the sky? Did you experience burns on the ground? And all these other things that really weren't addressed back in the day. But commonalities, like I said, from the other ranches are amazing. I thought, for example, these strange boxes, these disappearing boxes that I witnessed personally, the people on the ranch witnessed, and then also Bill Waugh, the sheriff, and a posse sheriff also witnessed this disappearing box. I thought these were long gone. And then, in Laughlin, I'm talking with James Keenan, Trey Hudson, and he has the Meadows Project, which is another ranch. So Trey Hudson and James Keenan also have experienced these disappearing boxes, both on Skinwalker Ranch. And Trey Hudson actually has like a thermal imaging of this box disappearing. And I was like floored by that because it kind of scared me in a way, because I was like, oh my goodness, I thought these boxes haven't been seen in decades, but people are still encountering and seeing these things. So there's just commonalities between experiencers and abductees as well, which I have hypotheses about. And I've, just like so many people who research this, you start hearing the same thing over and over. You start acquiring lists of questions for people. Did you experience migraine headaches, for example, is one of them.
You are the founder, Katie, of the Colorado UFO Paranormal Research Group. What motivated you to start the group? Who are its members and what is its purpose?
I started that actually because MUFON is a great organization and I absolutely value and love being the state director for Colorado MUFON, but it's very much a scientific nuts and bolts organization. And I appreciate that. And I think that's an extremely important part of the phenomenon. However, I believe that there's another extremely important part of the phenomenon, which are these the paranormal questions that we have, more the esoteric questions, the consciousness question. I couldn't deny that those two were somehow connected. And so I started that second group via Meetup to kind of meet with like-minded people to explore the different topics of frequency and vibration and crystals and kind of all those, what some people call them the woo-woo topic. However, I want to investigate them just like you would the UFO nuts and bolts sightings. So I started that group for that reason.
Your book, Letters of Love and Light, 4 Decades of UFO Encounters, Experiences, and Sightings, shared with ufologist R. Leo Sprinkle, PhD, provides great insight into what happens when humans have contact with non-humans. Can you tell me something about Dr. Sprinkle and what impressed you most about him?
Dr. Leo Sprinkle is a treasure. He's just a treasure. There's no other way to put it. He just has a lifetime of research in this field with experiencers. And for me, impressed me the most about Dr. Sprinkle was his giving of his time and of himself just to sit and listen. And he is somebody I would like to role model myself after. I learned really fast. It made me very humble really fast to start reading through these letters. What happened was I went there to explore the files on the ranch, kind of selfishly, just doing my own thing for my own purposes. And I got lost in all these boxes of letters from people all around the world. And I made dozens of trips out there and would photograph these letters from people. And I would bring them home, read them front to back, organize them into files, and then I organized them into chapters. So a lot of people had questions. Was this a dream or was this a memory? On hypnosis, on craft descriptions and ET descriptions, so many other different motives. A lot of people had ideas why they were here or why they were being taken. There's a chapter that describes people's communications with the ETs called Channeling the ETs. So many interesting things that you learn from other people. And Leo, even he put me under for an hour and a half, which was an interesting process. Took me a while to listen back to the tape. It was quite interesting, but he's just so generous with his time and his spirit. So it just really motivated me to do this book for Leo. And he was just thrilled that I did so. He celebrated his 90th birthday this year and he's doing quite well. But something that I did learn is called, that Leo talks about, he calls them the packs that people go through, and it's in the book. And basically it's when people have ET, whether it's abduction or contact, through all of Leo's work, he came up with he calls it his pack system. So early childhood visitation, he calls preparation, then is the abduction, then contact, then training, and then service. Right now it's interesting because so many people I talk to, you can sort of see where they are in their journey on that. And it does, so many contactees feel that they are led to service, whether it's service for our planet, protection of the planet, or for scientific invention, or for just speaking and investigating with one another, whatever your kind of mission is. A lot of contactees that I talk to seem to be going through that same process. So it's kind of interesting.
What do you hope readers of Love and Light take away with them after they read it?
It's been great. The one thing, I love to be in dusty rooms and dusty boxes and kind of hide away and do my research. research. And there comes a point where you have to do the service part, where you have to get out there and share, hence what I'm doing right here with you. What's fascinating, what's fun about this book is already I've had people who have read it that have contacted me and say, hey, did you happen to notice that the photograph on this page and the photo or the image on this page, they match? You just have to turn it sideways? No, I never noticed that. I think that's what's so important. By sharing all of these other people's experiences, there's things that I might notice that you'll notice. And somewhere out there, somebody's going to ask the right question. Sometimes we don't even know what the right question is to ask to get the answers we're seeking. The only way to do that is to share all these things with other people, because other people will notice things others don't. And the other fun thing about this book, I think what I appreciated was seeing the progression over the decades. So I have letters from the early 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and Leo kept all his response letters. So you can kind of see where Leo's train of thought went and how he progressed. And you also saw the people who wrote the letters, and not only just people who had experiences, but we had professionals writing to him as well, giving their 2 cents about, what their thoughts were about the phenomenon at the time.
You are currently working on your next book titled High Strangeness on a Colorado Ranch, the Colorado Skinwalker Ranch, Craft, Cattle, Copters, Cryptids, and Cover-Ups. It sounds like it's going to be as much of a page turner as Love and Light. Do you have any idea when it will be published?
I'm hoping in 6 to 8 months. That's what I'm doing with my days right now, is just writing. Hopefully we'll get a publisher this time instead of self-publishing who may be interested. So that's pretty exciting for me. So keep your fingers crossed for that.
Oh, I am, because I definitely want to interview about it. So yes, absolutely. I'll put in my vibes.
Thank you. But what keeps happening for me as I'm writing this, as a researcher, I don't know, I tend to be like Doug the dog in the movie Up, where I get sort of like squirrel. So I'll be writing about something and I'll be like, oh, I need to go check this out at the archives, or I need to dig up this paper. And so I recently just did that with the 2 A7Ds that crashed. In that briefing document that I showed you earlier, there's talk of, in this report, it says that 2 A7Ds crashed, all right, to the ground at night in pursuit of a UFO. And I'm thinking, well, certainly if that happened, there would be newspaper articles and information about that. And I did find the newspaper articles. Of course, they're not going to say they were in pursuit of a UFO. So I just actually the other day got my FOIA request back with the crash from Kirkland Air Force Base. As I'm writing the book, I have to stop and dig through piles of paper and more things to add to the book. And it's fascinating to learn. What I learned from this report is, even though they were on a training mission over residential areas in Elbert County, they were loaded with live ammunition. I also just met another gentleman who says he may have some answers and insight to what might have been going on there at the time. Another reason why it's important to start talking and sharing, because since all these years have passed, people, maybe some of these helicopter pilots or whatnot, will start coming out of the woodwork, and maybe we'll have some answers.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yacker want to order your book, Letters of Love and Light, learn about MUFON and other projects you're involved with, what is your contact information?
You could go to my name, KatieGriboski.com. So it's KatieGri, B as in boy, OSKI.com. And all my contact information is there.
Katie Griboski, I thank you for being my guest on Paranormal Yacker. I wish you success with your book and all the many projects in which you are involved.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Stan.
Thank you. It was great talking with you. Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. To be sure you don't miss any interviews on my free YouTube channel, all you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.